And it was probably because of all your experience and how involved Alanis was. This was probably really, really easy for you to do. And maybe, it seemed like you almost were overqualified. And that's not to like say it was a bad job for you or anything, but it's probably like a really good way for you to learn a lot of things that I don't know. You tell me.
No, you really hit it. It was walking into that job. I definitely felt, in a way like overqualified, because it was just sort of like standing aside, doing a lot of laundry
Yeah.
or making sure a lot of laundry had been done. But it was mostly like just dealing with a lot of personalities also. So that really, like, I learned so much on that tour, because as opposed to just really having been in charge of Alanis, when I was with Alanis, I was, I had to make sure the band looked good and like, but that was, all those guys were such pros. And it was mostly, they were also in like show blacks, the band was at the time. So it was just sort of like, okay, you're in all black, you look great, go hit the stage. But with Train, because it was like each person was doing like their own vibe in their own clothes, it was just sort of managing a lot of heads. But yeah, I did learn a lot on that tour as far as, working with, a personality, right? Because that's so much of that is really...
That's a big part of the job.
It is. But yeah, so went out with Train, had a really fun summer with those guys. We played a bunch of like amphitheaters. It was hot. Oh God, it was so hot. It was outdoors. I just remember like working really hard, like outside, which, I shot movies before, like I've done work outside before, but it really was like my first touring experience, like, sort of on that side, just, you spend so much time in the sun, and then like, it's grueling. It really is grueling. And like, rolling wardrobe cases, like through the mud or wherever you are. Like, yeah, but had a great summer with Train. That was like, my second tour. And then almost immediately off the back of Train, the same guy, David, hit me up and said, hey, I've got another tour coming up. Are you interested? And I was like,
who is it this time?
I don't know. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, it was just kind of as easy as I thought the job was. It was actually pretty hard. And he was like, well, this one's going to be a lot different. It's an arena tour with Demi Lovato. And I was like, oh shit, I know who that is. Like, this is a massive pop star. And I was like thinking kind of, oh, like this will be like back to sort of like the Alanis vibe. Like, let's do it. And so, so then like shortly after that, like, he called me back in and I went out with Demi Lovato, and I was on with Demi, it was sort of like I came in on, I think it was Demi World Tour, which was like, when did we start that? I don't even remember. Time flies. But it was basically working with Demi and her band on and off it ended up being like almost 4 years.
Oh, wow. And that in the touring world is pretty impressive. And for your career, I'm doing quick math in my brain, which is really good at math. No, but that's probably like the longest and most prominent touring gig you had, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And it was on and off. Like it was kind of interesting because, when an artist is on an album cycle, which I think at that time, Demi was on the end of I'm trying to remember what album it was, but we did Demi World Tour, came off the road of that like tour specifically for, I want to say it was only like a few months, then went back out to start press for a new album cycle, which was for their album Confident. So it was just like, luckily I was, I think like in the pocket enough with the crew to be considered, like core crew. So I was sort of in the mix at all points, where a lot of times, like I think, if you're on tour, depending on your position, you might have like some downtime in between like tours.
Like guitar tech.
Yeah. Well, guitar tech, or even, you think about like the riggers or, lighting techs.
Anything associated
like
with stage production.
Yeah. And it's like,
out of there.
For sure. And it's like, with an artist, sometimes like specifically if they're going into press or whatever, it's like sometimes they'll just show up to a studio and everything's already put in place and you literally just like walk them to stage and they play and that's it. But, because they have to wear clothes, I kind of, and I fought, I remember fighting with David you know, to make sure that I was sort of considered core crew. Because I remember having this conversation with him. We're not going to be needing you like for a while. And I was like, no,
Does Demi know that?
I was like, that's bullshit. I was like, that doesn't make any sense because, you know, the band and the dancers or whoever, like, they're going to need to wear clothes. Like, you're going to let them dress themselves. And I like kind of like positioned myself in a way after having done the tour and I guess like proven myself.
Yeah.
But I fought to be considered core crew and then luckily got in the mix.